Thrill Ride here, and welcome to the Absolute Savage Podcast. I am your ferociously handsome and incredibly talented host, the one-man Thrill Ride, or Thrilly Dilly, hanging out, feeling silly. For those of you who don't know, my real name is actually Jim Abreu. Jim as in I go to the gym 7 days a week like an absolute savage, and Abreu like a delicious brew of black coffee, Java Black, double espresso shot, and enough caffeine running through me to kill a friggin' horse. But since Thrilly Dilly is a Clydesdale and just hammered back at a pretty explosive rate and did some cardio because it's Operation Shreddification, and if you don't do cardio, the workout doesn't count. So I'm here, I'm jacked up and excited. We did a pilot in the past about a year ago, but because I'm so atrocious with editing and posting this to iTunes, it actually never made it up live. But I have a team helping me now, so we're going to have all this uploaded in the future, and this is going to be a weekly podcast with the debut beginning on February 12th, which is a Monday. All podcasts will air Monday, and then we will have a web series that's going to be coming out, and all episodes are going to be aired on Tuesday of every week. So we have a ton to talk about. This is going to serve as a pilot, and I'm going to just be giving you an update on kind of what's going on to get you a flavor of what's to come and to kind of understand where I'm at and where I'm going. Maybe give you a little bit of history on why I am no longer wrestling. We'll talk about that. A lot of people don't understand what's going on, right? So, and I've had people on my team tell me this. I'm doing Instagram videos, and a lot of people are confused. Like, is he wrestling? Like, what exactly is a web series? Like, he's talking about Smashing Smoke. I don't understand the direction. How is he going to make money? This guy's an idiot. So I thought it would be appropriate, since you guys have been following me for a long time, I thought it would be appropriate to kind of take you behind the curtain and get an idea of what kind of our business strategy is and all that stuff, all that fun stuff. So we're going to do all that. But before we get started, I want to give you guys a quick update on just what's going on with my life and what happened in my professional wrestling career. So let's get started with that. As you know, I launched a YouTube channel for the sole purpose of trying to get on WWE's radar and try to get at least a tryout with WWE. I mean, that was why I did it. It was actually the idea of Mike Bennett, who is currently in the WWE. I was doing these over-the-top 80s/90s style promos. When I made my kind of my return to pro wrestling, I was about 28 years old. I was really just doing it to have fun and have an excuse to be a madman at the gym. When you start being like 27, 28 years old and you're in the gym 21 hours a week, it's tough to justify unless, you're doing something with it. So I think that's how I kind of justified it in my mind. Plus, I really enjoyed it when it was just for fun. Excuse me, I just belched. You're welcome. So, I really enjoyed it, and I thought, if I'm going to do this to have fun, I'm going to be this character called the One-Man Thrill Ride, and I'm going to be over the top. It's kind of the character I envisioned myself being when I was like 17, 18 years old. Like, I thought I was like this jacked ladies' man and all that stuff, and I was just such a huge wrestling fan, and I was a muscle mark, no homo, not that there's anything wrong with that, but the guys I always rooted for were guys like, Buff Bagwell, Scott Steiner, guys that were jacked and talked about getting laid. Like, that was cool back in the late 90s. It's a joke now, especially with all the way that society is changing, specifically with the sexual harassment and misconduct, witch hunt, stuff that's going on right now. So that's kind of why I did that. I had a video that went viral, obviously me before the alumni game, which was intended to be a thing that I did for my buddies, right? So, like, a lot of people have heard this story, but for people that are just dialing in and just getting to know me, it's a pretty interesting story. So I had been doing these wrestling promos, and my buddy Craig Costa, who's a bodybuilder, jacked up firefighter, he's the man, one of my favorite guys ever in the wrestling business, such a good guy. He just recently got engaged. Congrats, Craig, if you are listening. So he basically said, I'm telling about this alumni game, right? And I'm doing these promos during wrestling class, during training. He's like, dude, you got to do a fucking promo before the alumni game. It'll be so fucking funny. And I was like, yeah, but will people even get it? You know what I mean? People might think I'm actually fucking serious. And obviously I did the video just for my friends. We played the game. We won the game. A lot of people asked me that. It was the first time, like, in the history of the alumni game that the alumni actually beat the current roster. We won 8-3. They really beat themselves. They walked a lot of guys and made errors. But I went 2 for 3 with a really cheap infield hit and like a weak weak single through the left side with like 2 strikes. So it was the weakest 2 for 3 in the history of baseball. We also got somebody on a hidden ball trick, which I've mentioned in the past. But that actually happened. A lot of people say, what happened in that game? We won, and I hit 667, so suck my dick. It was important to let the Fitchburg State guys know after the video went viral that I was just playing a character. And looking back at it, that was probably a mistake. A guy by the name of Ryan Drew, who was a promoter of that Top Rope Promotions company, he basically said, dude, because I went on this show, which I can't even remember, it was out of LA, but when the video went viral, they had me on, and I was just acting like myself, like I am right now. And Ryan Drew was like, dude, that was a huge mistake to break kayfabe and break character. You could have been Borat and just acted like you're that all the time and have that be a mystery of like, dude, is this guy acting or is this guy really consider himself the one-man thrill ride? And is this like a real thing? And I think it would have gotten more mileage had I chosen to go that route and had I chosen to make my next interview more like the one-man thrill ride prepares for the alumni game. So if you remember the second interview I did, it was called Leaving the Scene of the Smash, which I've since taken down just because it gives me douche chills when I watch it. But I decided to just be funny for the first 30 seconds and then start talking about like my dream to make it to WWE. And that was fucking stupid. What I should have done was maintain the thrill ride character and not went like that way. And I think I would have had more traction had I done that. I kind of got off track here, but at that time, I think a lot of people were telling me, like I was getting contacted by talent agencies and shit, and they were asking me, hey man, what are your goals? Are you looking to get into acting? Are you looking to get into comedy? And I basically said, look, my lifelong dream growing up is I wanted to be a professional wrestler. And so basically when I told them that, they were basically like, good luck, but probably a bad move because even if you do make it, they're probably going to not let you keep the character. They're going to want copyright and all that stuff and trademark. You're better off just getting into acting and comedy, and that's more your audience. And they felt that I was more marketable than just being a wrestler. And that's what I was told by talent agencies, and they were some major ones. I'm not dropping names like a fucking douchebag, but trust me, they were like talent agencies that you've heard of that represent like real stars in Hollywood. And looking back at it, I have no regrets, but they were probably right. And I probably should have heeded their advice and transitioned earlier into acting and comedy just simply because the wrestling business has just really changed. I'm a 5'9" bodybuilder, basically. I'm a former Division III baseball player, and I hit singles and doubles, man. It wasn't like I was driving the ball out of the ballpark. It wasn't like I was a phenomenal athlete running a 6'6", 60, throwing the ball 90 miles an hour at a crow hop. With unbelievable like mobility, like doing backflips. Like I could do a little Hurricane Rana, throw a decent drop kick, but by no stretch of the imagination am I like a great athlete by today's WWE standards. We can have a debate whether or not the current work style is better than it used to be. I mean, I think if it was 1997, 98, I was a good enough athlete to be in the WWE, but guys my height are guys that are like doing friggin' all sorts of shit off the top rope. There's guys that are like 6'7" doing dives over the top. It's much less centered around character development, in my opinion, and an entertainment, and it's much more about the athletics and the pseudo sport of choreographing a good match with way too many false finishes, etc. In my opinion. But anyway, so the history with the professional wrestling career, I pushed as hard as I could. It was my dream. The whole time I maintained, a real traditional corporate career. But inevitably in June of 2015, and the only reason I'm telling you this is because I'm no longer a pro wrestler. This is really taboo if you talk about this shit, like if you're still in the business, and it really is Bush League, and you're being a mark for yourself if you start talking about like inside baseball. But I don't give a fuck because I'm not going to be a professional wrestler probably ever again. I mean, I might do a spot show here and there, but it's not like I'm trying to make it. So in June of 2015, I tried out with WWE down at the Performance Center. I was down there with Biff, Tommaso Ciampa. There was a really good tag team from Australia there. Who's the kid? Riddle. He's all ripped up. He used to be an MMA guy. He's really entertaining. He's got long hair now. I'm trying to think of who else was there. But I read on my pro wrestling wiki, like some fucking mark was like, oh, he claims he was in a WWE tryout, but there's no way to verify that. And there probably isn't, but like, I'm not fucking lying, you cocksucker. Like I was there. and I could probably have guys vote for me who were down there. But anywho, the tryout, I was really invited down. I think Matt, I'm just saying this now because I don't give a fuck. Matt Bloom, I believe is his name. I know it's Bloom's his last name. I think it's Matt. But he's Albert, the guy with the back hair and all the piercings and stuff. I think he had seen my videos and he had talked to Brian Fury is how I understand it went down. And Brian Fury was like my big rival at Chaotic Wrestling, but he was also the guy who ran the school. He's actually a really great guy, and he did a lot to help me by putting in a good word for me. And got me basically, he gave me enough of a good word to get me down there. I think that's kind of what went down. And as I was at the tryout, I noticed, like, as soon as I got in there, like, I was in excellent shape at the time. I was in the very best shape of my life. I was about 197, and just shredded, like, veins popping out of the abs, like, in really good shape. Probably the best shape of my life. But in terms of, like, pro wrestling shape, I wasn't prepared for the tryout. It was much more about CrossFit. There was a bunch of things that, like, I didn't really train for that I should have if I had gotten advanced knowledge, which I should have done. Like, that's on me, like just pushing sleds. It was a lot about agility, like doing flips off one leg, doing all these, like, different types of bumps that they wanted you to master. And me just being, like, a bound up, like, shorter bodybuilder, like, it wasn't really set up to showcase my skill set. And I just, like, and I was surrounded by guys who had never even stepped foot in a wrestling ring before, but they were like Division I All-Americans from like Iowa and Minnesota, amateur wrestlers, guys that were just much better athletes than me. And after there was a 3-day tryout. After the first day, I was like midway through the second day, Bloom came up to me and was basically like, "Hey man, I brought you down here because of your character, and quite frankly, you're not sticking out at all." He goes, "I need you to showcase your personality." And I was like, "Okay, no problem." So I'm like, as we're gonna go through these drills, I'm fucking full thrill ride. Get ready for it. I hope it doesn't get me fucking cut. So sure as shit, as we walk into the gym to start like day 2, sitting down in a chair is fucking Triple H. He's right there outside the ring, and holy fuck, I'm second in line, about to act like a total douchebag. So I think the thing that we were doing was like, we're doing like a front roll where we tuck we do a little lucha roll, we get up, maybe we do a back, I can't fucking remember what it was, but I'm doing it, I'm like, yup, pow, and then I start doing my strut, and I'm freaking acting crazy, like I'm jumping up, and there's 3 rings, I'm like jogging the other ring, I'm jumping up like Brock Lesnar, I'm hopping over the top like Lex Luger, I'm like doing my strut, I'm doing all my catchphrases, I'm rolling. And, like, as this was going on, like, Bloom's looking at me, like, nodding his head, like, good job. And Triple H was just fucking staring a hole through me. And I'm like, well, I could stop, or I could just do what my coach told me to do and hope that Bloom can vouch for me in front of Triple H and be like, I fucking told him to do that. Like, he's not making a mockery of your tryout. He's trying to get his gimmick and his character over. So inevitably, I don't think that happened, or maybe he tried and got told that who gives a shit, the kid's a fucking clown, I want him out, or whatever. So needless to say, the tryout ended. Well, day 3 happened. I thought my promo went good. Day 3 was promo day. I thought it went well. I thought I did get good feedback on the promo, but at the same time, I didn't leave super confident that I was going to get a job. And I think a month later, I got the email. It was basically one sentence being like, "We're not interested." And it was like, it wasn't so much like, so you had 3 things. It was like, we're not interested at this time, but stay tuned. We might have something for you in the future. Yes, you're having a tryout, and no, period. And I got no, period. So I had to make a decision whether or not I was going to continue with wrestling. And so when I took a step back and thought about it, I really thought that I needed a break, just because I invested so much just mentally and psychologically into trying to make it. And the guy who I was talking about it was the guy who was booking at the time at Chaotic, was Brian Malonis, who was a great guy. And if you recall, it ended up on Reddit. We did some, well, it was a worked shoot, right? Where I was like acting like I was pissed at Malonis, and there was a bunch of guys in the locker room that fucking hated me, and Malonis was the head guy, and they were fucking holding me back, and they were talking shit, and they didn't respect me and all that stuff. And there was some truth to that, but it was really exaggerated. And I wrote like this 4-paragraph essay that ended up on Reddit, and like there were fucking fans and workers on the friggin' Reddit article, like, who is this fucking jabroni? So, like, they even bought it. So, I was the fucking jabroni that worked your ass, you stupid fuck. But basically, I just needed some time off, and there was some truth to the fact that there was guys in the locker room who, like, didn't like me and didn't appreciate the way I was going about trying to get signed, right? I had a different circumstance and a different situation than most of the other guys. I went to college. I had debt. I owned a house. I had a full-time career where I was making a good living. I couldn't justify to myself, my family, my girlfriend, who had a stepson, who has a son who is my stepson, and we now have a kid. And like I was starting to really know that Corey, my wife, was going to be the person I was going to marry. She's a great woman. She was there during that whole thing and super supportive when my soul was crushed when I wasn't going to get signed. But it was at that point in my life where I kind of had to make a decision, and I just knew that the way I tried to make it, being a 5'9" bodybuilder, being like a larger than life persona, that was how I was going to make it, right? I was going to make it to the WWE because of my like promo ability, because of my marketability, because of my charisma. It wasn't going to be because I was an athlete. It wasn't going to be because I spent 6 years in Japan or went to China and Europe like the guys like Oney Lorcan, like Bennett, like guys like Matt Taven or in Ring of Honor who really made that sacrifice. And they deserve a ton of credit for that. Like Warbeard Hanson just got signed, Donovan Dijak, all these local guys who made it. Each and every single one of them sacrificed their entire life to make it to the WWE. And at the end of the day, people were criticizing me saying he didn't love the business enough. And I will say that that's accurate with a caveat, right? I loved pro wrestling. I loved the fans. I loved performing in the ring and like behind on the camera. Like I absolutely love that and still do. I did hate the business. I didn't like it. I thought it was very catty. The locker room isn't anything like a locker room in fucking sports. Like in sports, everybody's bros. We're all trying to win. Even on shitty teams when shit's going south, the camaraderie is a lot better in sports than it is in pro wrestling, and it's not even fucking close. You just don't know who you can trust in the pro wrestling business. And there was guys that I thought were great guys. Like I'm not going to drop a name here, but there was a guy who I saw at the Bruce Pritchard podcast who I always had a lot of respect for, and I thought we were friends. And I saw him at the fucking podcast, and he freaking big leagued the fuck out of me. I'm like, all right, dude, that's fucking gay as fuck. Not that there's anything wrong with being gay, but it's a terrible expression. I hope I don't lose fucking viewers because of that. But it was just fucking stupid that people still act that way after all this shit's transpired. And I don't think I'm a bad guy. I always meant right every time I was in the ring. I always tried to do business the right way and make sure everybody got over and all that stuff. So I kind of lose a little bit of patience for that. But it became clear that I was going to have to make huge sacrifices in my life that would have had negative impacts on my family if I was going to continue, right? I was going to have to say, hey, hon, I'm packing my bags and I'm going to Japan for 3 months. Hey, hon, I'm going to have to quit my job and stop paying the mortgage and go to Europe and China and get bookings everywhere and kind of get my name out there and prove that I can fucking work. And there was a bunch of other ego bullshit that was kind of my fault. Like I remember doing a Beyond Wrestling show, and I was doing a couple promos, and the promos were getting over like right away. Like I knew I would have gotten over. But like I was sitting there and I was managing guys, and they were like, "Yo, Jim's good on the mic, but we don't want to get him in the ring." And like I watched like 4 shows in a row, and I was there, and I was like, I'm a better worker than fucking half these guys, in my opinion. You know what I mean? And that might be egotistical, and a lot of people say that I suck on the inside. I don't think I sucked. I think I was like a 6.5, 7 out of 10. Like, but I could have had a good match, and my shit made sense, I think. Like I could have been better at selling and progressively selling and some of the stuff that like Mike Holla was teaching me, but I wasn't a fucking joke, and I have the tape. Like you can watch me as a pro wrestler and be like, definitely not friggin' Kurt Hennig, but like not embarrassing either. You know what I mean? So like that really bothered me, and I remember I was like, dude, this guy doesn't even, I've been doing this for a long time, and this guy doesn't even think I can fucking have a match. Like this is fucking retarded. So once again, I apologize for saying retarded. If anybody's offended, please don't disconnect. I won't say that anymore. But so there was just all that shit going on, and I decided, hey, Brian, let's do this kind of work shoot type thing where we're going to act like there's a lot of heat based on some reality that the guys were kind of didn't like me and didn't like the way I was going about doing things, even though in my head I knew that it was the best strategy for me to get signed and the only way I'd make it with my given situation. And even though there was certain guys who like really resented me, guys that I even had respect for, which really bothered me, like Warbeard Hansen, who just got signed. He was a guy, it really bothered me. He didn't like me, period. And he friggin', he was doing his thing in the locker room. He's respected by everybody. I respect him. He's a very good worker. Every time I worked with him, he was a complete professional. He always put the match together in a way that got me over the most. I thought we had a really great match, him and I, in Bethany, where I ended up beating him with a victory roll, and he put the whole match together in a way that like made sense and put me in a very good light. So like he's a real pro and he's a good guy and everybody respects him, but he fucking hated me, and it bothered me that he hated me because I had a ton of respect for him. So there was a bunch of guys that were like that, you know what I mean? And it kind of did wear on me, and I probably shouldn't have let it. Congrats to him and for making it to WWE. He's a guy who totally made the sacrifice and fucking worked his ass off to make it. And congrats to him and everything. Great guy and deserves everything that he got. So congrats to him. But there was a lot of that shit, and it kind of wore thin. And once I knew that I wasn't gonna make it, I kind of felt like those guys had won, and that hurt me. You know what I mean? So I decided, I talked to Malonis, I'm like, hey, let's do this worked shoot where it's like, I'm frustrated about the way shit's going. Let's turn it into a storyline where, you're going to be the figurehead that you were that guy. And we did a really good promo at Chaotic where people legit thought it was a real thing. And like the fans were chanting, this is awkward, I think. And, but it was a total fucking work. You know what I mean? And we even worked all the boys in the locker room. Like from what I told, Sherman told me that like I guess everybody in the locker room was fucking, because we were down in the basement for the whole show. Nobody knew what the fuck was going on. They didn't know if we hated each other, we liked each other, and like I guess everybody in the locker room was like right in front of the monitor, like looking to see what was gonna happen. And I thought Brian and I really fucking pulled it off. And had I decided to come back in 3 months, I think Brian and I would have had some really fucking awesome matches. Brian Malonis is a fucking awesome guy, and he's wrestling now for Ring of Honor, off and on. I think he's getting more regular bookings now. I haven't been watching as closely as I had been in the past just because I'm getting ready to launch a web series, but Brian's a great guy, and I kind of wanted to clear that up now that, I know I'm not going to be wrestling full-time, so Brian and I never had heat. Brian was such a supportive guy of the Thrill Ride. He got it. He understood the business behind it. And he even told me at times, hey, you should stick up for yourself against Hansen. Like, Hansen is busting your balls. I think he's either testing you or he flat out doesn't like you. He's like, I'm pretty sure he doesn't like you. And I'm pretty sure he doesn't understand how a guy who can fucking not even talk about wrestling get on Barstool, get all this attention when he felt like I didn't deserve it, right? He's like, and you should stick up for yourself against him. He goes, and Hansen's like my best friend in the business. So take it for what it's worth. My whole thing, the reason why I would never, and I'm talking about Hansen, but Hansen was just one guy. There was lots of guys like this. Like, I would never do that to him, because he's a big dude, and I wouldn't, and, I'm not saying I'd get my ass kicked, because I would have fucking punched him in the face as hard as I could, but I had way too much respect for him to do that. You know what I mean? I had way too much respect for him, as a wrestler, for what he'd done, all the sacrifices he made, the respect he had in the locker room. I was just like, put your head down and just fucking take it. You fucking deserve to get shit on a little bit anyway. Your green is fucking hell. So take it. And but Brian was the fucking man, and I wish we could have kind of done something. So at the end of the day, after a few months, I came to the conclusion that I think I'm done. Just because, I'm a big Seinfeld fan, and I'm not comparing anything I did to Seinfeld, but I knew I was kind of at the peak. My last match with Brian Fury, I thought was a really, really good one in Woburn, and I didn't think it was going to get any higher than that, to be honest with you. Now that and that match was special because I had just found out the WWE said no. I think it was the week before, so I barely even wanted to go to the show. Once I got there, Fury was the fucking man. He put together this fucking awesome match. We did have some falsies. I think we were on last. It was fucking an awesome match. And I look back, I wish I had it on tape. I don't. But that was, in my mind, that was going to be, I'm glad that was my last match. It wasn't my last match, but it was my last big match at Chaotic. My last match was against my best friend, and we did it. We did it in awesome fashion, just like the Thrill Ride and the shirt thing Mark Sherman would do. We had a local female bodybuilder who was the special guest referee. I was like, fuck, like and the way we were booked, and thank you to Top Rope Promotions that was so open to this, but like we were booked, and he was basically like, I don't give a fuck what you guys do. You guys are just the entertainment. You guys are the the popcorn match, basically. Just be entertaining. So I did the Kurt Angle. I was like, fuck it, Sherman. I'm working heel. You're the baby face. I'm gonna come out, do the Kurt Angle thing where I come out 3 different times. I come out the first time. I'm like, I didn't get the respect I deserve. Stand on your feet, give me an ovation. I did it 3 times. I'm talking trash to the female bodybuilder, talking about how she wants an injection of genetic perfection. It was getting over huge. 3rd time I come out, I say something where she drills me. She just drills me once. I spin around. Sherman gives me an airplane spin, drops me with a spine buster. 1, 2, 3. We were done in 30 minutes. It was the most over match of the fucking card. So I think that was a good bookend for my little 15 minutes of fame in pro wrestling. It was probably the best match I ever had with the best opponent I ever had and the best working partner I ever had, Brian Fury. Totally grateful for everything he did for me, and I think he resented it. I did make the comeback to Chaotic Wrestling, and had one more match with him in Lowell where Sherman and I worked as a heel in a tag team match, and we lost early. And I always loved being a heel way more, by the way. Being a babyface sucked with my gimmick. I'd much rather just been a heel, but and I could tell that Fury was he wanted to make, maybe I'm reading into this, but like we were walking by in the hallways and he's like looking past me, like not even talking to me. I think he took it personally that I quit after he put in a good word for me to Bloom, to get me to basically validate that I was worth having down for tryout. And then he put me over twice, once at Cold Fury and then again at the end of the storyline when we had our best match. And then right after that was done, I was like, fucking see you guys. See you, thanks. And like the fact that that's how I showed my appreciation towards him, and that wasn't the case at all. I was just really, really down, and I think they can understand that, but at the same time, they've all been down, right? They've all been told no. They've all busted their ass and sacrificed their lives. And the guys that have made it, guys that have made the ultimate sacrifice and not gone to college and not had like a lot of money and not made 6 figures like outside of wrestling, like for those guys to make that sacrifice and not make it, they're probably way more heartbroken than I am. So to a certain degree, I don't think he gives a fuck, and maybe he shouldn't. But I don't want him to think that I wasn't really grateful, because I was. And I thought Brian was a really good guy, and I met his parents like after Cold Fury, and like he was really polite and always a good guy. I was like, hey, this is my dad, and I thought he was a stand-up guy for doing all that stuff, and he never ever put himself ahead of like having a great match or business. And it's so funny because both of us, they changed the finish of our match for Cold Fury. I remember we were on right before intermission, and the whole arc of the storyline ended up changing. And I got to bust Jamie Janikowski's balls about this, because he changed the finish, and it kind of affected the storyline. The storyline was supposed to be I lose at Cold Fury with kind of like a fuck finish. No. I lose at Cold Fury with like a clean loss. Like that was the whole thing. It was like we were going to do the Bulldog Brett finish, where it's like I go for a sunset flip heel. He's the heel, which is a little different because it's baby at 92 SummerSlam. But he just drops to the knee. He hooks my legs. 1, 2, 3. Fuck. I like look up. There's a close up on my face. Fuck. I wasn't good enough. The heel beat me. Fuck. So like I need to be better, right? That's how the storyline was supposed to start. Then we had like a Royal Rumble style match where the winner's the #1 contender. I was supposed to win that. Fury's fucking pissed because he beat me one-on-one. Then I tossed him out to win the Rumble. And now I'm the #1. And then we go back and forth for like 3 matches before one final. We're going to have like a fucking street fight. We're going to like stretch it out and like really make it awesome for the whole summer. And then I was going to go over that last match, and eventually I think I was going to be wrestling at Cold Fury for the Chaotic Championship the following year. That was the game plan. But I was a fucking pussy and I quit. Or I retired, basically, temporarily. So that's that. I just wanted to give you guys some background. And another thing I wanted to talk about was when I came back briefly for Northeast Wrestling, and I did that one show for Chaotic. The most memorable moment I ever had in my wrestling career happened at Northeast Wrestling when I made that comeback against Lucas Sharp. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention this, because if there's anything I'll ever remember about pro wrestling, it was this moment. So I wanna talk about it. So I did that worked shoot when I did that huge long essay and paragraph, like 5 paragraphs of why I quit pro wrestling and how disappointed I was and how fuck all you people for judging me and hating me, and all I ever want to do is be like the fucking Rock and Stone Cold and the guys that I worshiped growing up. And, it was, I always had the fucking, the idea that, man, it's pro wrestling, it's the local indies. If one of us makes it, we all make it. So, I mean, what the fuck, guys? This ain't, I can understand if it's a Shark Tank, if everybody's making 7 figures, but Christ, we're working for $100 a night if we're selling t-shirts. If not, it's less. It's like, how the fuck can we be such cocksuckers to each other and be two-faced and be like fucking like an episode of your favorite scene of Mean Girls? It's fucking stupid. And it's really toxic to guys who really have good attitudes and want to be in the wrestling business. But it's just the nature of it, right? And it's no different than other pieces of work and other industries, right? Because it's like that in companies and health IT companies, and it's always like that. And it's a shitty attitude, and people shouldn't have it. But my favorite and biggest moment, my most memorable moment, was when I came back to Northeast Wrestling, and they really, really encouraged me to come back. And I really thank Mike Lombardi and Matt Taven for believing in me and being very forgiving of me kind of just stopping on a dime when they had some plans for me, you know what I mean? And they had really, really helped put me on the map, particularly with Northeast Wrestling. He had put me in the ring with some stars to help me get some exposure. Like I wrestled Matt Hardy, I wrestled Vader, I wrestled Cedric Alexander, I wrestled Dijak, who signed to WWE, I wrestled Oney Lorcan, Biff Busick. I didn't do that at Northeast, but I wrestled him at a bunch of different other places. But, I was really appreciative and grateful of that. And I just remember before my match with Lucas Sharp, I'm walking up and I'm getting ready to wrestle, and I'm totally down on myself because I was pounding IPAs, like 6 beers a day for forever, and I was not in good enough shape physically to be in the ring. Like, I was fat as fuck. I mean, I was bulky, like I was always lifting. I was probably 220 pounds when I got back in the ring, which I was always billed at like 227, but I was never more than, I fluctuated between 200 and 210 pounds at 5'9", and really lean, but they billed me 20 pounds heavier. I was 220, I was fat, I was out of shape, I didn't have any confidence that the match was going to be good. And I'm sitting there, and Lucas Sharp's in the ring, and like I'm ready to go out, and like I just feel like everybody start like clapping, and I hear like all the boys like really starting to, let's go, and I turn around, and the whole locker room was behind me, like clapping and like cheering for me before my match, and they were kind of all just like, we all have your back, Jimmy, you know what I mean? And that was like a really, really special moment, and I'll always remember that because They came through. Those guys were stand-up class acts. They understand where I was coming from and like why I gave it up, and that moment really meant a lot to me. So every guy who had the class to do that, and obviously that was behind the curtain and the audience didn't see that, but that meant the world to me, and I'll never forget that. So thank you guys very much for that, and I'm almost ready to fucking cry talking about it. So we're gonna stop and we're gonna get into what's coming next. So that's exciting. So the next chapter, wrestling is done. Don't be sad. We have a way to bring back the Thrill Ride character and to make it exciting and fresh and new, okay? So the idea is to create a web series. And people are like, well, what the fuck's a web series? So it's going to be a legitimate production, okay? We were going to do Smashing Smoke, and we may still do the Smashing Smoke. So a web series is going to debut on February 13th. We have filmed multiple episodes. They're in production. They're ready to go. Since filming the first 2 baseball episodes, I reached out to a guy by the name of Jamie Silva. Okay, now Jamie Silva was an All-American defensive back at Boston College before he played for the Indianapolis Colts for 3 years. He played in Super Bowl 45. I do believe he was an unsigned free agent, playing for the Colts, played 3 seasons, played in that Super Bowl, and then eventually blew out his knee and got into film. When my videos went viral, Jamie was the friggin' man. Jamie's a totally down-to-earth, humble dude, and he made a really good impression with me when he called me. I thought he was a real pro, and he actually said, hey, man, I have this idea for a reality game show. It's called Naked Sports. And guys who followed me in the past know this whole story, but I went down to Pittsburgh. Excuse me, I keep burping. Let me take a sip of water here. We're doing it live. But I went to Pittsburgh and filmed Naked Sports. Now, this is when I first started dating my wife, so needless to say, she wasn't psyched when this thing was getting pitched to studios and stuff. But we filmed it. It was fucking hilarious, man, and it was so outrageous that it wasn't even creepy. Like, I think everybody would fucking not find it creepy, even in today's atmosphere. So it was basically, I mean, Jamie friggin', like, I think he got some strippers, like, he got some, like, wicked fat dudes that were, like, over the top, like, couldn't even see, like, legit couldn't see his penis because he was so fat, which you would think, hey, that's really mean to make fun of a guy like that, and we didn't. And, like, there was this one scene that really sticks out in my mind where he's in the tent and he's so embarrassed about being naked and, like, the whole thing. Like, there was a scene where it was, like, you could see that. And it was actually, like, pretty, I wouldn't say thought-provoking. It was very, like, emotionally, like, there was a real moment in the show where you're like, wow, this guy's really uncomfortable with being naked, and we probably should be nice to him. You know what I mean? Like, even me, like, who was ripping on guys the entire, like, I was the Thrill Ride in full character the whole show. It was a really interesting concept, and I thought for sure it was going to get picked up. I think Jamie pitched it to a couple studios, and at the end of the day, they were just basically like, hey, man, it's way too racy. It's like, it's wicked entertaining. And Jamie is firmly like, hey, man, like, you killed it on screen. Like, you, and he was saying the same shit as me, as the other talent guys. They were like, dude, you need to get the fuck out of pro wrestling and you need to do something else. Like, he was just like, you need to get into comedy. You need to get into acting. Like, you have a presence on camera that's very natural. And, that was another thing that used to piss me off about not to get back into wrestling, but the guys used to fucking bash me and say, hey, this guy only does 80s and 90s style of promo. He yells and screams. He has no talent. I finished 23rd in the country in fucking public speaking in college, in moot court. 23rd. I know how to speak. I know how to command the attention of an audience naturally. So I did have some talent, and I took a lot of time writing jokes and one-liners and stuff, and I performed at a high level. So suck my balls. Anyhow, you know, he basically was a big fan, and he really pushed to kind of get my stuff, you know, to and through the production process and then have that show. So I contacted him, and he was basically like, hey, man, because I was going to say, hey, man, I want to get your thoughts on this potential show, Smashing Smoke. It's basically Thrill Ride's coming back. He's delusional. He's, you know, and it's like boring. Like, I'll read you the whole one sheet in a second with the new one, but it was basically like, he's delusional. He's done with pro wrestling, but now he's back to save baseball, which is wicked funny because I think baseball needs no saving. I think baseball's ratings are on the upswing. The World Series has been, I mean, even the whole playoffs have been great 2 years in a row, and I think baseball is on the up, not on the down. So, but like, it's like when Chris Jericho came to WWF and he was like, hey, I'm coming to save the WWF. And they were getting like 7.0s in the ratings, and people were just like, all right, dude, shut the fuck up. And it was funny. So I was going to do that. We filmed 3 episodes of me basically, you know, coming, and it's a little different, right? It's professionally produced, and I'm teaching guys, like teaching a baseball team, like how to get ready for spring training. You know, I'm coaching guys up, I'm yelling and screaming. There are coaches, so there's other actors in this. And, you know, it's kind of like we're doing like a 30 for 30 type of shit. It's kind of like the shit I did with Hank, right? I'm like totally ripping on the players. I'm telling them they suck and everything. And I'm explaining this to Jamie. He's like, I like it, and it's going to get views, but, like, you don't want to just pigeonhole yourself to baseball. So we've decided that it's not just going to be Smashing Smoke. It's going to be called Thrill Ride and Absolute Savage web series. And we may include the Smashing Smoke and kind of reshoot. Now, we're not going to reshoot the Smashing Smoke things that we've already shot, but we may add scenes to it to make it more of a story arc in line with what we're going to do, or we might just air them separately before and then start the actual web series a few weeks after. So we've already started like casting and stuff. We're reaching out to actors and we're trying to get them involved. So that's what the web series is, right? It's going to be I got a phone call. Somebody from Rhode Island, and it looks like they're trying to sell me something, so fuck them. And my ringtone is Who's the Man by the Fighters, because I'm the fucking man. Not the, what did I say? Holy shit. The Killers. The Killers, that was embarrassing. Who's the Man from the Killers? It's a freaking sick song, but that fucked me all up. Where was I? So, let me go back. So we're doing this web series. Jamie has movie making experience. He's got stuff on Netflix right now, Some Freaks. If you saw my Instagram video when I'm talking about I'm a huge star, he was the producer of that. So, or one of the producers. And, Yeah, he thought that video was actually really funny because you couldn't even see my face, and I made a big deal about it, so it was funny. So he has agreed. He's like, dude, fuck that. Not only will I read it over, I'll do anything you need. And I was like, that is fucking awesome. So he is now the executive producer of our web series, and he's made films before. So this is going to be like a real web series with Jim Abreu playing Thrill Ride. And you're going to go through my life, and someone's going to be cast to play my wife. Someone's going to be cast to play my stepson, who has been written differently than he really is. My stepson's a varsity amateur wrestler. He's like a good-looking kid. He's got a girlfriend. He's totally cool. I wrote him to be like a total friggin' dweeb just because there needed to be more conflict. And I got my newborn son, who will probably play himself just because I don't want to handle another baby. And my wife's only request is that the actress not touch the baby. And you can understand why wives get protective of that stuff. So I think we can shoot around that. So we'll be able to do that. But it's very exciting. So we're going to have like legitimate actors. We're going to submit it to indie film festivals. I want it to be a top-notch production. And a lot of people think when I yell and scream in my phone, it's hack. And that was a big thing for me, where I want to prove to everybody that I'm no fucking hack, right? And we're going to put forth a very entertaining, smart comedy. And we're looking to diversify our audience by trying to cast a very strong female lead to play my wife. So we need somebody, a woman who's a very strong actress, to kind of give our web series legitimacy. My dad is the lead to play himself. And let me tell you, my father is fucking hilarious. He was the psycho Little League dad before the psycho Little League dad became a thing. And he knows it. He's since cooled down. He's in his mid-50s now. He's a young dude. But when my dad was super young when he had me, right? I think he was 20, 21. So he was in his 30s when I graduated from high school. And he was a fucking meathead. Like not a meathead. He's a very smart guy. But like he was, he's 6 feet tall, 255 pounds, 22-inch arms, like rep 365 on the bench. Like true stories. Like I remember playing Pop Warner football as a quarterback. I remember playing Easton. They're Oliver Ames. Like we threw a quick slant, like 3-step drop. I throw it over the middle, complete. Boom, I got hit. I had one of those leather chin straps right under the chin. I didn't even know where I was. Everybody's onto the field. I'm laying on my back, and my father comes up to me, and he just like, all the refs are around, all the parents are around, the trainers are around. And my father just grabbed me by the fucking face, Mac, and was like, "Get the fuck up, you fucking pussy. You are a disgrace to the Abreu name." And he just walked off the field, and the refs and everybody just looked at me in shock, and they're like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" And not physically, like, are you concussed and you're going to have issues with CTE later in life? Like, are you okay psychologically? Do you need to see a shrink? And my dad was a fucking legend. I have stories for days, and hopefully this podcast will be an avenue to tell those stories. And I'm hoping my dad wins the role to play himself. And I told him, Dad, you can't be mid-50s, like, start crying during, like, My dad is such a softie now. He's totally changed. We were watching the Super Bowl fucking highlights and Julian Edelman's hugging his dad. Like, just hold on to Dad. And, like, after they won, the confetti's falling over. And I look at my dad. He's fucking crying. I'm like, what happened to you, man? You are a bitch. Like, my dad used to fucking be such a hard ass and a psycho. My dad was the real Thrill Ride. And a lot of the shit I say is shit he used to say. And my dad was a much better athlete than I was, too. He just didn't maximize his potential. He used to, like, just get in fist fights, like, behind Shaw's on the Sharon-Foxborough line, and just beat the fuck out of people. And, my dad was a fucking tough dude. Like a real tough dude, not like a pretend tough dude like me. And, really good baseball player. He played in the Cranberry League up until, his late 30s. I actually played one baseball game with him. He hadn't picked up a bat in years. He was in his 40s, and I pre-pulled his fucking hamstring in his third at bat. It was hilarious. But like he shows up to the plate, and he's got a 36-inch bat, which I didn't even know they made. And first pitch fastball, he hit a fucking missile at the left fielder. And everybody's obviously up because like everybody on the team is in their early 20s, and my father shows up and he's like 42. And the first fastball he sees, he hits an absolute fucking missile right at the left fielder. And everybody's like, "Holy shit, nice piece, Rick." And he was like, "Barely got a piece of it." And my buddies, Brian Lawler, the guy who basically made famous which was from Into the Blue when Paul Walker said "ah" and it became "rah" with the Fitchburg State baseball team, just because we loved that movie and we loved Paul Walker. But Brian Lawler, to this day, he sells at Oracle. He's a freaking savage. He's playing rugby and stuff out there. He's the fucking man. I love him. One of my best friends. He always talks about that. Barely got a piece of it. That's what my father used to say. Oh, that's what he said when he hit that missile. But so my dad's going to play himself. Dude, I am rambling my ass off. I hope you find this entertaining, and I hope people aren't fucking turning this off at a fast rate. So I'm just super excited to get started about this. And I think what it's going to do is we're going to have talented actors play other parts. It's going to gain legitimacy. It's going to allow the character to live for a little bit longer. And I think it's important to talk about my other plans, okay? So I was planning on getting into stand-up comedy. That was my game plan after, I gave up pro wrestling, because my three big dreams, I was always huge fans of comedy. I was always a huge fan of comedy, right? And I remember my mom, right after she went through the divorce with my dad, she was seeing my stepfather now, and I remember she used to be nervous before dates, and we were like at Guy's, his name's Guy. Guy's a great guy, my stepfather. And I remember doing like stand-up for her. Like she would get all nervous, she was over the house, and like I grabbed the remote and I started doing jokes and stuff. And like the three things I wanted to be growing up is like I wanted to be a baseball player, I wanted to be a pro wrestler, I wanted to be a comedian. I didn't want a real job. So, and I just remember high school, man. I was such a fucking clown. I was voted most likely to be famous, by the way, with the the NWA World Championship on my shoulder in 2003. It's still in the yearbook, Mansfield High School. And but I just remember like going through like Miss Sawyer's class, and I feel so bad for her. Like when I was like a sophomore in high school, I used to just friggin' anytime we had to get up in front of the class to do a project or do something, like I was basically just doing stand up and like trying to make everybody laugh. Like I didn't give a fuck. It was bad. But I thought I had some talent. I used to make everybody laugh. Like I remember we did something about Macbeth, and I played William Shakespeare, and I just played him like he was totally gay, and she was the head of the Gay Straight Alliance, so she took offense to it. But it was funny, man. It was wicked funny, and I actually did a very nice, very believable gay voice. So like, it was pretty. It obviously crushed, but she was basically like, "Yeah, you're out of class. Go down and take a walk." And nowadays, I probably would have been expelled. But it was funny, and then I remember we did some project where, we had to do summer reading, and it was about the stock market crash. And I have a buddy named Dakota, black dude, my great friend growing up. I used to do backyard wrestling with him. He's still rapping. He's still doing his thing. I love Dakota. He was at my wedding and everything. And I'm talking to him about the summer reading. I'll never forget it. He was like, "Dude, why do they call it Black Thursday? There ain't no black guys in the stock market when it crashed in 1929. I just started dying laughing. So like when I got up doing the project, that's how I like started. I like set it up to like tell the joke. I shattered the assumption. The whole freaking class lost it. Jimmy, sit down. You know what I mean? And like that's always how I was. Like I was always the clown. I was always in the honors and AP classes, but I was always the clown, I think, or the guy who wanted to make people laugh. And I get an honest to goodness high out of making people laugh. So it seemed natural to me that wrestling wasn't going to work out. I was either going to get into acting or comedy. I was planning to go into stand-up. I was set to do open mics. I have a whole list of material and jokes written. I think I have like 5 really good minutes, I think. And I was getting set to do my open mic, and I found out that my wife was pregnant. And it was the best thing that's ever happened. I'm so excited. Carter James Abreu. I probably shouldn't say his name so people don't stalk him. But he's the best thing that's ever happened to me. I love him to death. I can't wait for him to crush baseballs. And if he tells me he's going to play lacrosse, it'll be more disappointing than finding out that he blew the entire men's basketball team of his high school. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm more disappointed by the entire team part than the blowing of the dudes part. And the reason why I say that is because people think, well, it's no secret that I sort of politically, although I am an independent, I am conservative in some ways, and I'm very like socially moderate in other ways. And they think that I voted for Trump. Sorry guys, I think culturally the political correctness thing really bothers me, and I do think that the left has kind of lost their what can I say, like their moral high ground. Like when they were bashing the Patriot Act when Bush was president, and they were bashing the Iraq War, they were really they were right. They were right, and I just don't feel they're right now, particularly with some of the stuff that's going on with the CIA and FBI and stuff. I'm sorry, I'm not going to get into politics, but so the reason the only reason I'm telling you that is because people like think of me that way, and they're just like, so what are you going to do if Carter's gay? Like, I care if he's like, I don't care. I'm going to love him no matter what, right? But I'm like, dude, I would be way more disappointed if he told me he was quitting baseball to play lacrosse. And I just freaking got like, it was at my birthday party, and I just got tons of laughs, and I was like, that's a joke. So that'll probably be in the series and in my stand-up routine. Comparing any type of disappointment to the disappointment of saying, like, you're going to play lacrosse and you don't even have a trust fund. Like, what the fuck, dude? All right, enough of that. I probably got sidetracked. I don't even know where I was going with that. But here is what's coming soon, guys. We're going to have this podcast. It's going to air every Monday morning to promote the upcoming webisode that is going to come on the following Tuesday. Podcast launch February 12th. Web series launch February 13th. We haven't decided whether the February 13th launch is going to be Thrill Ride. Excuse me, I'm burping again. Thrill Ride, an Absolute Savage web series, or Smashing Smoke, Thrill Ride Saves Baseball. So either way, you're going to get videos every week starting on the 13th. So the way the podcast is going to go, everything's going to start off with a brief introduction where we basically will kick things off. I'm going to be Thrill Ride. I'll be in character a lot more than you're getting right now. I just want this to serve as like, I just wanted to explain to everybody what I'm doing so they don't think I'm all over the place, even though I have been rambling like a madman during this podcast. So weekend recap we're going to do. So, like, for instance, Danny Amendola, you are the fucking man. Huge win for the Patriots. Super Bowl 52 is going to feature the New England Patriots versus the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm really excited. And, guys, stay tuned. We are trying to get press passes to go to Media Day, and Thrilly's going to be in there full gimmick if we can solidify that. So I'm going to talk about everything that's happening with Absolute Savage Inc. coming up real quick. So we'll do the weekend recap. We'll talk about the game. Nick Foles does not scare me, and the only thing that scares me about the game coming up from as a Patriots fan is I do think that this Patriots team is probably the weakest in the last 5 years. With that being said, I think that just means that they can be beat on any given week. And I do think they're definitely good enough to win the Super Bowl. But they're probably the worst Super Bowl team that's been since the 13-3 team that lost to the Giants 21-17 or whatever the score was. Because that defense was bad. I was at that AFC Championship game when Billy Cundiff missed the kick. I took edibles for the first time in my life and didn't enjoy the games in the fourth quarter when I knew where the fuck I was. So don't do edibles. Yeah, it's not a good high if you take too much. I'll just leave it at that. So we'll do the weekend recap. We'll talk about the stories of the week, the big stories of the day. The guy who's managing this podcast wants me to talk about Roman Reigns taking steroids. My response to that is congrats. Pro wrestling is fucking fake. You got a problem with me saying that? It's fake. It is not a sport. Okay, I don't care how many times Ric Flair calls it a sport. It is not a sport. And I know Ric Flair has made a lot more money than I have. And I know that Ric Flair has accomplished a lot more than I have. And I know that people will think I'm a joke for saying it's not. But just as a guy who grew up playing sports, the moment somebody tells you that you cannot win and you're going to lose, and you agree to that, and you lose on purpose, it ceases to be a sport, irregardless of how athletic the contest. It's not a contest. How athletic the performance is. It stops being a sport when it stops being a contest. Okay? That's my opinion. Suck my balls. So Roman Reigns, is he on steroids? Is he not? I don't give a fuck. It probably should be mandatory for him because when he's off cycle, he looks pretty fucking shitty. So wear that fucking body armor a little harder, bro. And I'm not one to talk because I think I've been pretty open that I had taken steroids when I was wrestling. I never took a lot of it. A lot of people would lose respect for me when I tell them that. Look, I didn't touch it until I was 28 years old. When I was 18 years old as a senior in high school, I could bench press 365 pounds at $185, all natural. Nobody could fucking touch me in the weight room. I was in there 7 days a week, 365 days a year. I'm not taking shit now. But I always was in great shape, and I was strong as hell. I've always been naturally strong and like a thick dude. It's just my genetics. The hard part for me was being super cut. So the way I used it, and I never really abused it. The only time I ever, I'll talk that story because that's an interesting story too. The only time I ever stacked something was when I went to WWE TV for the first time because I knew my shirt was going to be off and I was going to have a match. So that's interesting. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But I never really abused steroids really at all. I mean, if you think any use is abuse, then yeah, I abused steroids. But I never took more than like what would be considered a beginner's cycle, right, of just test, either propionate or epinate. Never had any side effects. Never made me psycho. I don't think roid rage is even a fucking thing. I think it's made up. Never experienced it. I just was hornier. I was a little bit stronger, and it allowed my, it put some water like in my chest and my delts. When if you don't and you're just natural and you're trying to get lean, you lose a little bit of that bulk, right? So I took steroids as a way to get cut while maintaining my muscle mass, right? So like I'd wrestle it even when I was on shit. I would fluctuate, like I said, I would fluctuate between like 5 and 10 pounds on or off cycle. If I was on cycle, I was like 205. If I was off, I was like 200. Like, and I wouldn't, because I didn't believe in putting on a bunch of weight on steroids and then come off and look like shit. Like I was, like there's matches where like I can tell if I'm on or off based on how pumped I am in the ring. Like you can tell like, oh, he's fucking loaded with juice or he's not. Like I can tell just because I did it. But at no time did I not look like I was in great shape or like strong as fuck. You know what I mean? Even when I was not taking juice, like I'm grabbing 125-pound dumbbells and banging it out for set to 10. Like I'm just a strong person naturally. Took a little bit, and my strategy was, hey, this is going to allow me to stay super shredded while I mean, super strong and bulky when I really, really get lean. And I'd never had I mean, a lot of people think, you know, you're cheating. I have no respect for you. That's your opinion. You can look down on me all you want. That's fine. It's America. But I also think steroids is more American than apple pie. I think when you take drugs to escape reality, like drinking beer, smoke pot, you are a fucking loser. It's very European and cunty. And I think that when you take a drug to be the very best that you can be, whether that be Adderall to freaking concentrate at work, whether that be steroids to be a little bit bigger, stronger, faster, I think that's American as fuck. I can understand why it would be illegal in amateur sports, and I totally think that high school kids should never touch it. I want to be clear with that. Kids and high school kids should never touch it. I did my first cycle when I was 28 years old. I started lifting when I was 13. So I had 15 years of experience before I ever touched it, and the only reason I touched it was because I was trying to make a living doing something. So I want to be clear to the kids listening that steroids can really affect you very negatively if you don't take them properly and if you don't take them as an adult and you take them too young. I wouldn't even take it if you're in your early 20s. I wouldn't touch it until you're at least 25. At least 25. I had 15 years of weightlifting experience, and I was 5'9", 205 pounds, repping 225, about 30 reps more than an NFL running back at the NFL Combine before I ever touched it, okay? So if you're not at that level, and you're not the biggest, strongest, and fastest you can be when you're all natural, do not waste your fucking time. And if you take steroids just to look good at the beach, you are a fucking tool. Because you can look great. You can look awesome without steroids. And I'm in the process of doing that right now. I'm in great shape. I'm losing a bunch of weight. Operation Shreddification is a real thing. Doing a bunch of cardio. And, you know, I just realized that I'm totally off track again. And this is what happens when I don't have a production manager and we're doing it live. But bottom line, do not take fucking juice if you're just trying to look good at the beach. Don't do it. I don't want me telling you that I saw no moral problem with taking steroids with giving you a free pass to do it. Because if you're doing it just to look good, you're a fucking tool. If you're doing it for a chick, you're a bigger tool because you don't need it. So with that being said, I don't know how I got there because I'm talking about the format of the podcast. So I guess that makes me the Trojan End Baby Condom Dink of the Week, which every week we will have a Trojan End Baby Condom Dink of the Week. Who is that this week? It's tough to say. I've been so swamped, I haven't really looked at it. And CJ, you fucking douchebag. You got me this frigging agenda a day late and $1 short. You're supposed to give me choices, you stupid fuck. And now I got to do it myself and figure out who the baby condom dink of the week is. This week's Trojan Ends baby condom dink of the week is CJ, my podcast manager. And the reason why he's a dink is because he weighs in at fucking $150 with a sunken chest cavity, looking like a prepubescent little boy, being an absolute male feminist, missing deadlines like a freaking hack, and sending me this shit that's not filled out. CJ, congratulations, bro. You are the Trojan Ends baby condom dink of the week. So, congrats, CJ. You are the first one to do it. Next week, give me a fucking list of choices, you bum. So then from there, we're going to do a special guest interview every single week. So hopefully we can get some athletes on here. So like there's some guys who, my following's very interesting, right? Like I have kind of a cult following. Like it's not a huge following. I got 15,000 subscribers on YouTube, 15,000 on Twitter, a whole bunch on Instagram, like 50,000+. But I have a bunch of celebrities that follow me. The most interesting one I saw was Anthony Scaramucci, who was Trump's #1 guy. I saw that he was following me. I can't remember his Twitter or Instagram. I'm like, that's fucking cool. I was like, I want to see if he can get me a meeting with the fucking president, because that would be sick. Even if you hate Trump, you got to say that if you had a chance to meet the guy, wouldn't you do it? It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Hey, I met the president as he was president. So that's cool. So I have an eclectic group of an eclectic small group of celebrities that follow me. So I'd love to have this as an opportunity to kind of showcase these athletes, particularly baseball players. Like we're trying to get MLB baseball players on for the podcast, because I understand that a lot of baseball players, I guess, watch my videos in the locker room, which was kind of the reason why we were going to do a whole baseball series. And we still may, guys, because we're going to produce a bunch of content. So stay tuned for that. Anyway, so special guest interview. We're going to do listener interaction. So we're going to respond to emails, texts, tweets, and direct messages. Those will not go to me. They will go to my manager, CJ, who sucked this week, who will be much better next week. So if you want to email us, you email us at teamthrilly@absolutesavage.com and ccsales@absolutesavage.com. If you cc sales@absolutesavage.com, I will read the email, right? And I'd prefer if I read the email versus it going straight to a manager, just because it allows me to stay on top of shit. So CC both, or email both Team Thrilly @AbsoluteSavage and sales @AbsoluteSavage with your guest requests, some questions you have, like a Q&A, anything you guys want to hear, any suggestions for the show. If you want me to take an Adderall so I'm not all over the place like I am now, I am prescribed by a doctor, because I have the attention span of a gnat if I don't take it. From there, we're going to do, after listener interaction, we're going to do Thrilly's Sportsbook. So we're going to take advantage of all the sports gambling that takes place. And we're going to give you picks, a list of picks for every NFL game. We'll also do some baseball picks too, even though I hate baseball betting, because anybody can beat anybody. And, if a starting pitcher has an off night, you just don't know. Baseball's tough to bet on, I think. And I'm not really much of a gambler. You know what I mean? I'll do it once a year or something. Even though every time I do a March Madness pool, I fucking win. Like every time. And it's because I'm clueless, right? I don't watch any of the season. That's your strategy for a March Madness pool. If you do a March Madness pool and you actually watch the season and think you know something, you're fucked. The key is to just say, Duke, that sounds good. Oh, this 12 seed is beating that 5 seed. Why? Because I like the name better. If you do that and that's your March Madness strategy like it is mine, you'll win like me. If you know your shit, you're fucked. It's a little different with other sports. In addition to the Trojan Ends baby condom dink of the week, I'm going to have the Absolute Savage of the week. Like for this one, the guy I would pick for Absolute Savage of the week would have to be either Harrison, because I thought his stuff off the edge at the very end of the game in the fourth quarter was key. Trey Flowers played awesome. Or it would be Danny Amendola, because this guy is just so clutch in the playoffs. And Dola's like my height, man. And him and Edelman are different players. Like my dad has a fucking man crush on Julian Edelman. Like, I don't know who wants to bang Julian Edelman more, my wife or my dad. My wife thinks he's a gorgeous man, and my dad thinks he's the best receiver in the NFL. I'm like, are you sure? He's like a slot guy who goes over the middle. Like, man, he has 100 catches a year, but like, he's the best. He's the best wide receiver in the NFL. So, but I think Danny Amendola, although he's not the player that Edelman is, he's a little different type of receiver. Edelman makes a lot of great plays in space. He's tougher to bring down. He might have better hands, but from what I've seen in big games, nobody has better hands than Dola. And he's been so fucking clutch, and he was so big in that fourth quarter. And you know who else had a huge catch was Dorsett. Like, I didn't even know he was dressed to play, and Brady threw that ball, and he made that big catch in traffic. What a fucking game that was. And the Jacksonville Jaguars played their fucking asses off, and they deserve so much credit for coming into Foxborough and just playing. And Blake Bortles played awesome. I mean, he played his type of game. It was run first, play action. Some people are bashing the play calling. That was a perfectly called game for Jacksonville. Well, when they were up, they didn't put the Bortles is a guy who'll turn the ball over. Like, the only way you're going to win that game is the way they game plan. They played a pretty much flawless game, and they were the better team for 55 minutes. They pushed the Patriots around up front on both sides of the ball, and for 55 minutes they were the better team. They just couldn't hang on at the end, and I don't think it had anything to do with play calling. I don't think it had anything to do with referees. I've seen a lot of that shit. That's bizarre to me. Like, I watched the game and I thought Cooks got hooked on a pass interference that wasn't called. They were just letting the guys play on both sides. So I don't think the refs had anything to do with it. I don't think play calling had anything to do with it. I think at the end of the day, the Patriots were the better football team. Jacksonville played their very best game and just came up a little bit short. Did they even turn the ball over, Jacksonville? I don't think they did. I think they won the turnover battle. They won the time of possession battle. They were way more physical. And Fournette, man, what a good back he's going to be. Like, he is fucking tough as nails. He reminded me a little bit of Corey Dillon when we had him. I think he's a little bigger and more explosive than Dillon. I could be wrong. I'd have to watch Dillon back in his career, but he just reminded me, like, he just was pushing forward every single freaking time he carried the ball. And he had one where he freaking, like, juked and, like, broke Chung's ankles. Like, Chung had him on a blitz for, like, you're going to have a strong safety come in and friggin' have him for a TFL or for a 3-yard loss. He makes a move. He's an enormous back, like a 250-pound back. He makes a move and ends up getting 5 yards. Like, I thought he played his ass off. And, like, him, I think he was crying, and a bunch of other Jaguars were, like, had tears in their eyes on the field. And you could just tell they absolutely played their asses off. They had every chance to win and might have even deserved to win. Like, they played better for the majority of the game. But at the end of the day, when you get the best quarterback, probably the best football player of all time, in the fourth quarter with another 10-point fourth quarter comeback, it's like, man, you got to tip your cap to the New England Patriots because, they're just the best. They got the best ownership. They got the best coaching. They got the best quarterback probably of all time. But what an unbelievable game that was. And I would say when Dion Lewis proved that he didn't isolate biceps for 90 minutes like a real athlete was supposed to, when he fumbled on that trick play, that was the time where I was like, they're going to lose this game. It turned out to be wrong. I mean, Tom Brady is probably the most special athlete of all time, even more so than Jordan. I think it's becoming, just with all the comebacks. I mean, if Jordan had kept playing, maybe you could make the argument. Jordan never lost, kind of like Montana. And if he never stopped to play baseball, he might have had more championships and stuff. But those things are part of your career, right? If you're going to measure up resumes and who's the best athlete of all time, I think there's definitely a strong argument to be made that Brady, especially if he wins the Super Bowl, has surpassed Michael Jordan as the best athlete of my lifetime, at least. And I can understand the people that hate Tom Brady and hate the Patriots because I never rooted for the Bulls, man. I fucking rooted for the Jazz. I rooted for the Sonics. I rooted for the Phoenix Suns with Barkley. I hated Jordan. But looking back at it, that was the most fun I ever had watching basketball. Even more so than the Celtics being great now and being good now and when they went on their championship run with the Big Three and everything. So I say that Tom Brady is the best athlete in professional sports. But don't give me Jim Thorpe. Don't give me the Bo Jackson argument, like because he was really good, or Deion because they're good at two sports. They weren't the caliber player that Tom Brady is. And I know that Tom Brady runs like a 5'1", 5'2", 40, and but I don't give a fuck. He's the best at his position and the most important position in sports. The greatest player, the greatest athlete in professional sports history. So after the Absolute Savage of the Week, we'll do a conclusion. So I think I said that I just went on and rambled about Tom Brady, but I'm going to give Dolo the Absolute Savage of the Week this week, and we'll do it a lot better with me in character in the future. Okay, so we'll do a conclusion where I'm going to tell you to follow me on Instagram, subscribe to my YouTube channel, follow me on Twitter, make sure you download this podcast, and when you're on YouTube, give yourself a notification to make sure that you're the first to see anytime a new webisode is released. So make sure you do that. And again, if you have any questions or like to hear certain things on the podcast, guests, anything like that, please email teamthrilly@absolutesavage.com and sales@absolutesavage.com. All right, we're going to wrap things up pretty quickly here, but I want to go through kind of my business strategy and what's going on moving forward, okay? So I had mentioned that we're transitioning out of wrestling. I'm no longer a pro wrestler. Sorry, guys. I am going to keep the Thrill Ride character in the form of a web series, okay? And here comes the one sheet. Thrilly Dilly is ready to read it for you. Ready? Thrill Ride here, and I'm not washed up, bro. I'm the legend that mashed baseballs for years like a coked out Lenny Dykstra in '93 when he was running more gas than Sunoco. I became a huge wrestling star, crushed promos in the car, and sold out the Woburn Elks Lodge like 3 times, bro. Those elementary schools were absolutely electric, and it's an electric factory, if you will, if you want to quote Barstool. And 3 years ago, I was the shredded beefcake, the alpha on top of the world, who with one swipe to the right could engage in a stable style squish. Oh, fuck. That's what happens when you go live with a podcast. Let me do that again. Take 2. Go. Where is it? Where's the script? 3 years ago, I was the shredded beefcake, alpha on top of the world, who with one swipe to the right could engage in a stable style squish. Squish sesh is tough to say. Take 3. Here we go. 3 years ago, I was the shredded beefcake, alpha on top of the world, who with one swipe to the right could engage in a stable style squish. Fuck! Get it right, goddammit! Take 4, you amateur hack. Let's go. 3 years ago, I was the shredded beefcake, alpha on top of the world, with one swipe to the right could engage in a stable style squish sesh with any quality casual rando that I chose. And I still stuttered. Here we go. In this, I'll do the movie voiceover. In this jock comedy web series, we follow the life of the Thrill Ride, a larger-than-life former pro wrestling star and failed pro wrestler who attempts to escape the normalcy of his American middle-class nightmare by making a comeback through his video blog to motivate men to go from average to absolute savage and finally find the true happiness that eludes him. Unfortunately, my lifelong dream ended when the WWE saw my tryout, saw what I had to offer, and the talent evaluators told me, eat a bag of 24 ripped off dead dicks. I guess they didn't like my shtick, bro. I never got signed. If the love child of Kenny Powers and Dom Mazzetti had 5 scoops of pre-workout, he would be the one-man Thrill Ride. A few years later, I'm married with a stepson who hates me, a newborn son who won't stop crying, and a regular career path that I hate. When my stepson told me that he's going to play baseball, he wasn't going to play baseball in lieu of lacrosse, it finally hit me. This generation is soft, bro. It's time to get back on YouTube, to save baseball, and to turn betas. I suck. Turn betas into alphas in the weight room and teach boys to be men in all aspects of life. Thrilly is back, full tilt, full time, like an absolute savage. It's like Borat on steroids. Literally. Jacked, athletic, and all-American alpha. Thrill Ride never drops the act, and it's his greatest gift, but it's also his greatest weakness. Through his eyes, every day is Game 7 of the World Series, or pay-per-view event, and every conversation and interaction is a high-intensity wrestling promo. Whether he's teaching boys, baseball players to hit, or whether he's showing boys how to lift weights, or whether it's at his awful day job. Dude, I'm an atrocious debacle right now, but you're getting the idea and a flavor for what it's going to be. Okay, where are we? So he needs to figure out where the character ends and where the person begins to truly find happiness. But right now, the happiness would be to get back the magic he once felt on the baseball diamond or inside a wrestling ring. Here we go. I'm trying to bring it back. It doesn't matter what I'm doing or who I am. I will pimp it with the buffest swag you have ever seen. I will crush all aspects of life. I will never stop pounding and put an end to the weakness that perpetuates American society. This web series takes place in the suburbs of Boston, with the overall arc following Thrill Ride through his life. He lives with his wife, stepson, and newborn son. His parents and in-laws are tired of Thrill Ride and want him to, quote, just be normal. But his wife, Courtney, is truly the only one strong enough to keep him in check. His neighbor and enemy lacrosse pro, Duke Initiation, will stop at nothing to see him fail. Nevertheless, we follow Thrill Ride's march through multiple standalone web series vlogs, Smashing Smoke, Thrill Ride Saves Baseball, how to train like an absolute savage. Whether it's sales training or how to handle your newborn, Thrill Ride has one mission, one man, one desire: to save the world from the pussification of America and pass the lesson of absolute savage. Motherfucker, pass the lesson of absolute savagery to the next generation. On the baseball field, in a wrestling ring, or in the coach's box, it makes no difference, puppets. In a sea of Honda Civics, there is only one Maserati, and it is the one-man Thrill Ride. I am Mr. ROI, I'm cash, I'm money, and the wife is still begging for the USD when it's scheduled in advance. See ya, dink! That is the premise of the show. If you thought that was good, besides my atrocious delivery and performance. Oh, I didn't finish it right. Thrill Ride is back, or at least he thinks he is. All right, now we're done. So I hope you guys thought that was entertaining and think it could be an entertaining show premise. So I think a very important thing for us is that we're going to need a strong female lead to complement me, because I really haven't done a total... A lot of acting, right? I've done some acting. In high school and shit, I did plays. But I mean, like, in terms of, like, professionally, like, I've just done the wrestling character, which is acting, because I am sort of like the Thrill Ride, but I'm not really, right? So, I think I have, like, decent ability, but overall, I'm not a super strong lead because I'm, a wrestler, right? I was a wrestler. I'm new to acting. So we're going to need somebody very, very strong as an actress to play my wife. And my real wife, she needs to be comfortable with that. I'm a huge Seinfeld fan. I'm not a Friends fan, so it's not going to be relationship humor. It's not like there's going to be love scenes. It's going to be much more like Peg and Al Bundy. Like I said, I'm a Seinfeld guy, not a Friends guy. I believe in the Seinfeld philosophy. No hugging, no learning, none of that shit. It's just going to be funny. So here's a character list of what's going to do, or what's going to be like. Okay, Thrill Ride, obviously a washed-up former baseball player and failed pro wrestler from Boston who is on a mission to destroy the pussification of America. His quest is promoted on his video blog and takes him to Little League baseball camps, the gym, the office, through all aspects of his life. He's a strong alpha male with a grandiose delusions about his stardom and unwilling to grow up until he feels the joy he once felt in the 15 minutes of limelight that he had. Here we go, Duke Initiation. He plays for the Russian Hackers, by the way. So he's the antagonist. Thrill Ride's arch enemy from high school and current next-door neighbor, lacrosse pro for an independent team called the Russian Hackers. He convinces Thrilly's stepson that baseball is a dying sport and that he needs to focus on lacrosse. Joke, which sets off a chain reaction. Looks like Bizarro Thrill Ride, muscle-bound dude, athletic lax player, lax bro, huge shades, hopefully long hair, hat, cocky and arrogant. Think Shooter McGavin plus Jack Parkman on steroids. Okay, Courtney. My real wife is Corey. We will be calling the girl playing my wife, Courtney. Thrilly's wife, somewhat supportive of Thrill Ride's new mission, easily gets on Thrill Ride's nerves, which causes him to snap. The only person that can keep Thrilly in check. She really runs the household, but a kind and gentle, genuinely good person. This is always wicked funny. So this gives you a hint of what marriage is like for all you single guys. After years of hot sex, she has settled down with a newborn and scheduled sex in advance, which is so hot. And I think just that's a funny thing. Me and my wife have. I don't want in case families listen to this thing. The sex isn't a problem. It's just the scheduling. It is just like with the newborn as a married person. When you're like, obviously as a dude, it's not super hot. And like, between 8:37 and 8:42, we're going to be putting Carter down. So it might be a good opportunity for us to have sex. And I'm going to request a little bit of foreplay prior to that. So like, we're going to plan how funny that shit is. I know that's marriage humor, but it's fucking funny. Dick. My dad's real name is Rick. My dad might play this character, and if he does, I really hope he crushes it, because my dad was a real life absolute savage growing up, and anybody who grew up with me in Mansfield or went to Fitchburg State knows like the epic legendary stories. And my dad was my best friend until my newborn son Carter came along. So they're probably 1 and 2. I mean, obviously my wife. So I would say my wife's my best friend. But prior to that, no, my son's my best friend now. My wife is number 2 and my dad's number 3. So my dad's going down, but I don't think he'll lose 3. My mom's my mom, but she was more she would kick me in the ass a little bit. Like she's a great friend too, but she didn't want to be your friend, my mom. So that's why you're not on the list, Ma. I love you just as much. It's equal, Mom and Dad. Love you, Mom. My mom's a great grandma, so not a great grandma, but a great grandmother. You know what I'm saying? Holy fuck, I've been rambling. So Thrilly's dad, mid-50s bodybuilder and true absolute savage, hates Thrill Ride's life crisis and is still over the top hard on his son, even now that he's in his 30s. And we'll have flashbacks to my father snapping on me in Little League and Pop Warner. Dude, oh my God, I just think of this story. Like, so my parents were divorced, and I used to play travel ball in Sharon, Massachusetts. And I lived and went to school in Mansfield and Foxborough for a year. And I used to play, obviously I grew up, I played Little League in Mansfield, and I had so many close friends in Mansfield, and I look very positively back at my time at Mansfield, especially in high school. Everybody was really cool. I had a good high school experience. I mean, I wasn't like, I wouldn't say I was like a super popular kid. Like, I wasn't like, I was into that thing. I thought that shit was corny when I was in high school. I think it's super corny now. But, everybody was wicked cool to me, and anytime I see somebody from Mansfield, with the exception of a few people, I'm always like, very happy to see everybody, and good group of people over there. Mansfield's a nice town, but they'll validate these stories where, like, my dad, oh man, I remember 12-year-old All-Stars. It was like the most epic and intense game ever. I was pitching, and I'm talking about All-Stars. I fucking played high school varsity sports and college baseball, and I can still remember this fucking game. 12 years old, Little League. In the Hockomock League, you weren't allowed to call curveballs. My dad was calling the whole game from behind the backstop. If he said, here we go, or he said nothing, fastball. If he said, here we go, brew, which my name's Abrew, brew meant knuckleball. If he said, here we go, Jimmy, that was the deuce, okay? And deuces were illegal. So I'll forget Mr. Kershaw, who was like awesome Little League coach. He's such a great guy. I liked him a lot. And my mother really thought he was a really good coach. And anytime my dad was an asshole, I always felt like my mom always felt bad for Mr. Kershaw, because like he fucking had to put up with my crazy dad and shit. And all the Little League coaches had to fucking put up with my dad. And he was like, and Mr. Kershaw is like the all-star coach for Mansfield. I'll never forget. He was like, excuse me, Jim's throwing curveballs. And my father lost his fucking mind. Steve, I think it's Steve Kershaw. Yeah, Steve, I think it's a cutter. God damn it, he's throwing a cutter. And like, no, you not only was I throwing a curveball, you called curveball, and you're friggin' like flipping out like this is Game 7 of the World Series, and it's fucking 12-year-old All-Stars. Meanwhile, my parents had gone through a divorce. I'm playing for the other town. Like, I'm crying on the mound as a 12-year-old kid. Like, all my best friends are in Mansfield. They're all chanting, traitor, traitor. And I'm having, like, this cycle. You wonder why I am the way I am. It's because of that shit. So, we ended up losing that game, like, 1-0. I was, like, pitching my ass off until, like, the very end. I think somebody ended up getting a big hit off me. We ended up losing 1-0. But that was one of the most psychologically devastating losses of my life, and it was 12-year-old All-Stars. Can you imagine that? But that gives you an idea how psycho my dad was, and we're going to capture that on the web series. All right, so Chris is going to be my stepson. So my stepson is a varsity wrestler. I think he won 30-something matches as a freshman. He's a good wrestler. He's a good athlete. He's a handsome kid. He's got a girlfriend. Like, he's a normal kid, but I wrote him to be like a total dweeb, just so there's character conflict. So Thrilly's total nerd, soft stepson who hates Thrill Ride and decides to pursue lacrosse to spite him. A combination of Todd and the Wedding Crashers and Kevin Myers in American Pie. Who was a total tool? In American Pie, I'm sure he's a jam up guy, but like, he's like, guys to the next step. Total fucking tool. All right, so next, Colt. We're going to call my son Colt. Thrilly's newborn son, who was constantly getting indoctrinated in the church of savagery, with which Courtney can't stand. A constant tug of war about being too soft and versus too tough. And me and my wife battle that all the time. My wife is like the nicest woman on the planet, and I think too nice. And even though my son is only 3 months, and it is the time to be soft and make sure he doesn't have any issues like psychologically, and he has confidence and stuff. Like, I'm not yelling and screaming, but there is that already tug of war of how he's going to be raised. And I think every single husband and wife goes through that, right? And I was very much raised, I think, like my mom was actually the one who was nice to me. I think every boy grows up loving his mom just because they take care of him. And my dad was always the one that was super hard at me. And I think my wife is just so nice that I'm going to have to be an asshole to my son. And he'll respect it once he's like 20, 21, like when I did with my dad. I'll never forget when my dad turned around, and we'll get into that another time. But so there's going to be that tug of war about who's too strong, who's too soft, and I can just envision it being like in The Hangover with Carlos. You know what I mean? They get that kid, and he's got the shades on him, and like me coming out, and it's going to be funny, dude. So then we're going to have a boss, Hyman, Thrilly's false alpha boss, who condescends him consistently passive-aggressive sabotage. Thrilly dreams of the day that his blog takes off so he can pound the man's face into the earth as he quits. And we'll have a dream sequence with me turning heel, kind of parodying Shawn Michaels throwing his head through the barbershop window. So I've had a bunch of bosses. So I remember, like, my boss from Meditech was like, you're writing this about me, aren't you? Which is funny. And some of it probably, but not. It's based on every single boss I've ever had. Besides I had one boss at Summit who was like my friend who like brought me in. I just said the company's name. They were cool with the Thrill Ride. So one of my companies, I work for my buddy Kevin, totally cool guy. But just I think everybody can relate to that, and it's kind of an exaggeration. I never had real issues with any of my bosses or anything like that. But the character is a failed athlete. He hates his regular corporate job. It would be appropriate if the friggin' boss's name was Hyman, number one, and he hates him. And there's just so many, you need to have that antagonist, protagonist type of thing in the office environment. So Duke initiation, obviously making light of the false rape allegation of Duke Lacrosse. So if you think that's offensive, go fuck yourself. Fucking America is so pussified. That's funny. Duke initiation, he plays for the Russian Hackers, who are his two sidekicks, Don Dossier and Uranus One. So they'll be part of that as well. I mean, that's over the top and corny, but it's also very funny. So I'm going to take you through some episode ideas before we wrap things. Now, we're going to episode ideas, then we're going to talk about the relaunch of the website. So episode ideas, we got an episode called we're working on. So these have not been shot, but they're all concepts we've been working on just to give you guys a flavor. So the baptism. Thrill Ride is pressured by his family to baptize his newborn son, Colt, Catholic. Since Thrilly hasn't been to church since confirmation, the priest orders him to go to confession, but not before he confronts the priest about the sins of the Catholic Church. That's going to be fucking awesome. So these episodes are going to be about 5 minutes long, right? But you're going to see Thrill Ride as Thrill Ride in real life. So you're going to, I'm not breaking kayfabe, right? In pro wrestling terms, I'm just going to be the Thrill Ride the whole time. And I'm hoping it won't be so over the top because we're going to have legitimate actors that are going to be working with me and hopefully broaden the audience. My wife rolled her eyes when I told her this one. The marriage therapist. We're not going to therapy or anything like that, but it's not that bad. It's good. After disagreements about how to raise Colt, Thrilly is forced and disgusted to go to marriage counseling with Courtney. Can Thrilly be tamed by the innovative therapy techniques, or will he snap like an absolute savage, harder than ever before? Okay, that's pretty good. The sales kickoff. Here we go. After the boss Hyman passive-aggressively big leagues Thrilly in the conference room, Thrilly plans payback with his friend Sherman. So, Sherman, you better fucking be down with doing an appearance. I'm going to have somebody play you, and I'm going to make sure he's a fucking tool. So, he dreams of annihilating him in the auditorium during the sales meeting. Will they strike in front of 500 people at their annual sales kickoff, or will cooler heads prevail? That's going to be good. Here's going to be one of my most favorite ones. Get ready to fucking grab your balls, fellas. The Make-A-Wish. Courtney gets a call that a dying 13-year-old boy with cancer has one wish: to meet Thrill Ride. Thrill Ride reluctantly agrees to surprise him at a local wrestling training facility. When the boy proves that even kids with cancer can be absolute pricks, can Thrilly control his savagery? That'll be epic. I'm getting text. Is that my wife? No, it is not. The return to the diamond, as his stepson Chris is in the driveway preparing for his first day of baseball tryouts. He notices his arch enemy, Duke Initiation, showing him lacrosse moves. After Thrilly hears the news that he has switched to lacrosse, he decides it's time to take action. That'll be good. What else we got? I'm trying to find some decent ones. I got a whole list of these shit. The Spring Training Savage, the VFW Wrestling God, where I come back, the Independent League Baseball Tryout, the job interview. So we got tons of episode ideas, all with concepts, and we got active scripts going on. So this is a great segue to kind of talk about what's going on with Absolute Savage Inc. As you know, I used to say Thrill Ride LLC, or Thrill Ride Inc. is a LLC with a tax ID, and I missed the RO. I used to say all that shit. So that's a real thing. But I went ahead and I created a company, a C Corp called Absolute Savage Inc. And our mission moving forward is going to be a blog, and which will feature a web series, and not just of me, but of other people who really support and like are in alignment with our brand. So people are like, "Oh, dude, you're fucking ripping off Barstool. We're gonna compete with Barstool." Number one, it's a joke to even put me in the same category with Barstool. They are a very successful blog company, and I appreciate everything Dave and his entire group of dudes, who are awesome guys, have done to give me exposure. So in no way would I jeopardize that by doing anything to compete with them. Like, that would be fucking stupid. That would be what we call biting the hand that feeds you. Because if I didn't get the exposure from those guys, I would have never been shouted out by Bill Burr, and I would have never gotten on the MLB Network. And any of the exposure I got, it's because of Barstool. It's because of Dave. Dave thought I was funny, and when I met him, he basically said, "Don't give me that shit. You earned it." But if it wasn't funny, we wouldn't have put it on the site. But at the same time, I wouldn't do that. How we're going to be different than Barstool? Okay, so basically, our goal and our mission is to teach boys what it means to be men, right? What it means to be an absolute savage. So, like, we're going to have that dink of the day in our blog. We're going to have the absolute savage of the day. And our blog content about sports is going to be a little bit more serious in tone. Like, Barstool is more about culture now. They're kind of gone in a different direction now that they've gotten bigger. But, it's like bro culture. My character is going to be very comedic, but like I have buddies who I've started this company with, Absolute Savage Inc. They were serious bloggers. My buddy Troy DeMauro and Andy Sauer. So Andy Sauer is a Green Beret, total fucking badass. When he's not murdering members of the Islamic State, our sworn enemies, he's going to be on blogging. They started a website right around the time my videos went viral back in 2013 during the Red Sox last World Series run, called Sox and Stripes. Andy is from Connecticut, huge Yankees fan. I played ball with him at Fitchburg. Guy was a great athlete. He's one of those guys that probably could have played D1 in terms of his tools, like really fast, great arm. But like he was our ace too. Like he played right field, and then he pitched for us. Like great athlete, great basketball player. Like, but played D3. He great ball player, probably the most talented baseball player out of the three guys. Troy, me and him were absolute boys. We trained together all the time. We literally, we always joke, even though it was D3, if you don't take 500 dry swings with your shirt off, you're a fucking terrorist. Troy and I worked so hard, and we took D3 baseball way too seriously. And maybe we didn't take it too seriously. It depends on your perspective. But my whole perspective with D3 baseball was like, if you're going to waste your time and make the commitment, like, why not be like the absolute best you can be? Leave it all on the table. If you don't get signed, you're not going to get signed, most likely. My co-captain and one of my best friends, who was in my wedding, Jeff Paquette, got signed by the Toronto Blue Jays. He played a couple years in the Gulf Coast League. I went down and see him play, and I love that kid. He's a great guy. Jeff got 2 kids of his own now. We're all fucking grown up in our mid-30s or early 30s. What is 33? I'm going to still say early 30s. I got 1 year left. Fuck. Jeez, I'm getting old. But Troy and I friggin' worked so hard when we were baseball players. Like, we literally, it was like, we'd be sitting there, it would be 10:45 on a Thursday, we'd have like a non-conference game with fucking like UMass Boston, and we're getting set to go to class at like 11. We're just looking at each other. He's like, hey, should we go to class, or should we just say fuck it and hit until our game at 3? Like, and we'd just be like, yeah, fuck it, we're gonna go hit until our game at 3. And we'd hit for 3 hours before even BP started, and just take swing after swing after swing, tee work, flippies, everything. And like, we took it so seriously, and looking back at it, no regrets. But My regret is I would still take it that serious in terms of how hard I worked, but I was a 2-year captain, and I think I expected everybody to treat D3 the same way as I did. And I think I should have been, I think I could have been a vocal leader in comparison to the other captains. I would have been the guy, and I think I was the guy, but I think I was overkill a lot. And I'm embarrassed by some of it. It's like, dude, it's D3. Like, fucking relax. I mean, I a little rah-rah here and there at the right part of the season is right, but I was way too rah-rah. But anyway, Troy was a huge, we were very, very close friends and, still friends today. And it's so funny, when I got married a few years ago, fucking almost the entire roster I invited. I forgot one guy, and I still fucking am sick to my stomach about it. I don't know how I missed it, and I didn't realize I forgot to invite him until I saw him at another wedding. And I'm not going to say his name, but I'm going to tell him in person the next time I see him because I feel so terrible about it. So my wife controlled that whole thing. I had one day to come up with a whole list, and I just left them off. And I thought I invited him because I think we had reached out to him through Facebook Messenger, his wife. And I'm like, I saw him at a wedding with my other buddy Chris, and I'm like, man, I really wish he could have made it to the wedding. Why did he didn't come? And then I was like, I didn't fucking invite him. It was the most embarrassing moment of my life. So I should probably tell him before I air it on this podcast for thousands to hear. But anyhow, let's move on. So the website, it's a total rebrand. We have a whole new website coming out. I'm about to pull it up right now. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to have an entire new apparel line. So it's going to be exciting. I've repartnered with my partners, Strange Planet Printing. They were the OGs. They created that Absolute Savage Absolute Vodka parody. So I'm going to tap into they're very gifted with marketing, and they produce really great products. So my merch is going to be a lot better than it's been since going to Printora, who fucking sucks. So we're going to have the Absolute Savage logo apparel. So we got a new logo coming out. We're going to have a Next Level tee, a tank, a hoodie, a Flex Fit hat. Another thing we're going to have the Thrill Ride shades coming out. That's exciting. We found Alibaba. We're going to be all American. Excuse me. We support the troops big time. Especially with a Green Beret as one of the executives of the company. We're big time supporting the troops, and we're going to be all American with most stuff. Unfortunately, the one area where that's different is the Thrill Ride shades. We found somewhere in China that actually sells them. So that's the only way I could get the Thrill Ride shades, and I've had a lot of requests about that. So boom, we have the Thrill Ride shades. Other than that, everything's pretty much made in the U.S. Premium fitness apparel line coming out. When I did the analytics, and I looked at the analytics, my customers and my fans really like premium fitness apparel. They were way less losers than I thought they were, right? A lot of my fans are like homeowners, they're professionals, and they buy premium products. So I was like, you know what? Why don't I sell them the shit that I would wear, or offer them the same stuff, the same type of stuff to buy that I would wear at the gym? So we're going to have some really nice dry fit stringer tanks that have multicolors with a really sweet, our new logo is pretty sweet, man. It's very simple, so I think it can last for a long time. We'll have the logo vertically going down the side, and different colors with the stringer part. Dude, just fucking sweet stuff. Stuff that you're going to look like a pro when you go to the gym. Dry fit stringer tanks, dry fit tees. We've got nice, bodybuilder or CrossFit shorts that are coming out. Nice pair of joggers and bodybuilding pants. And the one thing I'm doing, which I don't wear, but I've seen a lot of guys, those hoodie tanks that you got to be on at least 500 milligrams of test. 500, you got to be running tests to fucking wear that shit. You got to be a total meat stick. But the hoodie tanks, we'll sell those too. And then we're going to have just vintage Thrilly tees. All of these are going to be new. We're coming out with, Dilly Dilly. I was saying Thrilly Dilly way before Dilly Dilly. We're having a Thrilly Dilly parody shirt. So Bud Light, get the cease and desist ready. But unlike the Absolute Vodka thing, I got my lawyers ready because I've been saying Thrilly Dilly way longer. And it's very clear that it's a parody. And I am not part of Bud Light. And we're covered by the parody clause within copyright and trademark law. And if you want to really come at me with a cease and desist, maybe we'll stop. But I think we're covered by the parody clause, and so do my attorneys. So fuck you. No, don't fuck you because you're probably good people, but I'm going to go ahead and do it until you tell me to stop. Vintage Thrilly tees will have a new Absolute Savage design that's different than an A. We're going to do a different logo that's more simple, maybe AS. Our marketing guys are working on that. See a Dink shirt, Ra, Pow shirt, Absolute Savage baseball, Rise and Smash Operation Shreddification. All new designs, all coming out very shortly. So, all right, now let's talk about from a high level, Absolute Savage Inc. The reason why I haven't done this a long time ago is because I haven't had a lot of help. right? It's very difficult to hold down a full-time job, produce a podcast, produce videos, edit them, market them, do it all yourself. That's why I kind of got burnt out and I kind of stopped for a while. I brought myself on a team. So for that web series specifically, I have 2 former stand-up comedians that are helping me act. 2 stand-up comedians that helped me write, okay? Sam Healy is a guy I knew growing up from Foxborough, next time over. He's friends with Troy. I played ball with him growing up, played against him in high school. He's had some experience as a stand-up comic and as a writer and stuff. He's on helping us write episodes. A guy by the name of Dan Burgess. I don't know if you remember that thing I did where people were submitting videos. He was the Vanilla Gorilla. He did the Mitt Romney one-liner. Really funny dude, man. And he's been writing some jokes. And for some of the videos, we did a couple videos where we did a Patriots season recap and we did a promo for the AFC divisional round game. And I had to break the news to him that just the production value, like it was in my basement. We didn't have the green screen yet. Like I had my white panel walls. I'm like, we're trying to project an image of professionalism, even though Thrill Ride's a hack and like his act is very over the top. Like moving forward, anything that we put on the internet, we want to be really polished and present a really professional exterior, which is why we're bringing on Jamie Silva, who has like film experience. He's produced shit that's on Netflix. Like we want it to be a really polished type of product, which is why I haven't done anything with the Patriots this year, just because it's just, people like the rawness of it, but it's not going to grow the audience anymore. I've kind of maxed out of like my hardcore cult following with that shit. So I had to disappoint Dan and tell him, dude, your jokes are fucking amazing. They're killing everybody watching it, but I'm not releasing it just because it looks like shit. But he's been huge, man. He's coming up with episode ideas, and he knows how to write for Thrill Ride. Like he's a really smart, really funny former stand-up, and he's going to be a huge addition to making the web series a legitimate thing. So like the goal for that web series, man, I'm trying to submit that shit to like indie film festivals and stuff. Like I want it to be a very highly acclaimed type of web series. I want it to be smart comedy. I want it to be funny. I want other people other than me stepping up into big roles and growing the audience because of it. And I think he's going to be a huge addition. We got other guys helping with production, making things better, making it look like a nice little Hollywood exterior, kind of package the Thrill Ride. What's the expression? Put some lipstick on the pig, but it's not going to be a pig because we're going to have other guys with talent surrounding me, which is huge. So that's going to be launched on our new website. We're going to have a big newsletter that's coming out that's intended to drive traffic. So there's going to be a section called Absolute Savages, right? All you need for that section is your email address. If you sign up to the newsletter, what you're going to get is you're going to get 10% off on anything in the store, right? Any product, you're going to get 10%, and you're going to get access to some old Thrill Ride videos that I've had to take down for whatever reason, right? Whether it be copyright, whether it be, like I remember I did a sick video outside WWE headquarters. And Jamie Janikowski, the head of Chaotic, asked that I take it down just because like they were opening up talks with WWE about kind of trying to be, I think they want to be like a feeder system, I think. I don't know. I'm not involved, and I'd probably get shit for even mentioning that on my podcast. But I don't know what's going on. But I knew like he was trying to talk to the office, and he didn't feel like that should be up, which in fairness to him is a very legitimate point. So I took it down. I can't find that one. But like videos like that, I'm searching through it. I know it's somewhere on my hard drive. So, videos like that I've taken down, if you give me your email address, you'll have access to it. In addition to that, we'll have the new store, which I just talked about. We're going to have this podcast in addition to other podcasts. Anybody on my team. So we're bringing on guys to also blog. But the blog is going to be more serious, teaching people what it means to be an absolute savage. From there, we're going to also offer Hire Thrilly, right? Both for fans and for businesses. And this is really important because I've had a lot of requests, and in the past I just didn't have the business infrastructure to do it. But seeing as my goal is to do this full time, be able to quit, my current career path, which I'm very grateful for and everything. But I'm of the belief that you got to live life and you got to be passionate about what you do for a living. And I'm really passionate about making people laugh. So I'm hoping we can make this happen. So Hire Thrilly. If you're a fan, we've had a lot of people say, hey man, I want a custom video. Hey man, do you do personal appearances at like a birthday party and stuff? Those are things I hadn't done in the past. I'm going to do them now. The custom videos, I'm raising the price just because I'm so busy. Like I can't justify doing a custom video for your bachelor party unless we're getting paid, because now I got to pay other guys. So, it's going to be a little bit more expensive. I think everybody who's ever ordered a custom video from me has been like, dude, thank you so much. We played it at the wedding. It was fucking amazing. Like, you made the whole thing, you know? So a lot of value with that. But more importantly for businesses. So the way we're trying to finance the web series, really, and this is tough because I have a borderline following. Like, I'm just barely have a big enough following to justify sponsorships. But so we're offering businesses the ability to sponsor episodes of our web series. You know, it's not cheap, but if you do it, we're going to guarantee a certain amount of views. We're going to guarantee a specific amount of exposure. And our audience is very 18 to 34 male demo. So you're getting a very specific demographic. And if you, it's going to, whatever you would pay for traditional marketing through like Instagram, Facebook, any social, or on your blog, you're going to get more traction because I have a bigger following typically than some of these upstart companies, and you're going to have a more targeted more targeted marketing to my demographic. So you can sponsor episodes. You can also advertise on this podcast. So I'm going to be doing that as well. If you want me to do a live read, if you want to sponsor a segment, you can do that. So if you want to do that, please email sales@absolutesavage.com and teamthrilly@absolutesavage.com. Once again, if it's sales, I get the message and I can respond to you directly. If it is Team Thrilly, you can work through CJ, who is my manager of the podcast, in this week's Trojan and Baby Condom Dink of the Week. We will have a section called The Team where we're going to have a bio of each guy who's going to be blogging for us in addition to the creative team who's writing the web series. Once again, teaching men what it means to be an absolute savage, and shitting on those that are not. You'll also be able from that section to find specific blogs for those guys. The blog will be on the main screen as well, in addition to like a brand new user interface with some nice GIFs. And that's another thing. So like the Absolute Savages section, in addition to like unlisted videos and stuff that you'll have access to, you're going to get 10% off in the store. You'll also be, with your email address, you'll be the first one to see newly uploaded videos, because our videos with the web series may be actually embedded with Vimeo, which is different than YouTube. So you won't have access to that early unless you have signed up for the newsletter. So make sure you sign up for the newsletter. It's going to be on the website, very easy to find. You can sign up to the newsletter now on my current shitty website. It's either on the left-hand side scroll bar or at the bottom. But either way, it's the same newsletter. So if you sign up on my current shitty site, you can still have access to that once we go live. Here we go. Here's the big one. And I get criticized by even guys on my team for doing this. But I think it's going to be, if this thing grows, and our goal is to grow my following by 5 times in the next 2 years. Not just my following, but the following of our company, right? So we're going to offer something called Premium Thrill Ride, or we're going to change it to Premium Savagery, where it's basically you pay $25 one time for the year, and you have access to all this premium content, which is going to be very exciting. So I'm going to do daily live streams once we get the technology set up. We're not going to roll this out until all this is up and loaded and we've preloaded the content, because we're going to offer a money-back guarantee that we offer 365 unique pieces of content per year. So we'll be loading up content every single day. That'll include daily live streams. Every one of our episodes are going to have 2 versions. We're going to have the version that you see on YouTube, on social media, Twitter, Facebook. It's going to be shared everywhere. Hopefully we have that. Hopefully we can have some success getting like on Barstool. It'd be great if they saw it, they think it's funny, and they put it on their site. But like things like that. So that'll be one version. And then we're going to have an uncut, uncensored, unfiltered version. So it'll probably be a minute and a half longer, maybe more. Like each episode is going to be 5 minutes, maybe the uncut version 7 minutes. And like we'll have some questionable jokes that we've taken out onto Premium Thrill Ride. And the reason why that's happening is because we do have members of our team who are of like different political beliefs. We got left-wingers, we got right-wingers, we got people in the middle, we got people who don't give a shit. Like for instance, I had a Harvey Weinstein joke in the Smashing Smoke premiere. Somebody thought it was in bad taste. The compromise was, hey, we'll release the Harvey Weinstein joke to our premium members just because we don't believe in censorship, but at the same time, we do want to grow our audience, but we want to give our biggest fans the ability to have that. So I think we're going to say it's like $5 or $5 or $3. We haven't decided a number for the premium content. A month, cancel any time, or you pay in advance for the year and you get a big discount. It's like $25. It's like the cost of a t-shirt. You get access to the premium content. It's a no-brainer. And we're going to have a bunch of my old wrestling matches. So I didn't release a lot of wrestling matches on my YouTube channel just because I had shit for my promoters. I'm working on getting permission to have all my matches. If you're a premium member, you will be able to see all my wrestling matches. You will also have access to the uncensored, unfiltered, uncut version of every episode of our web series. And we're working on this. Remember that Naked Sports pilot that I shot in Pittsburgh? We are working on getting that to be part of it. If that is not part of the actual subscription, which it may not be, I got to talk to Jamie. It's his production. So it'll be a pay-per-view type of thing. And it won't be much. It'll be between $5 and $10. But that might also be part of Premium Thrill Ride, in addition to daily live streams. And eventually this podcast is going to be viewable, which will be part of Premium Thrill Ride. And we may do, if I can get to the point where we're really growing the following and I can actually quit my, just do this full time, then I'll be doing podcasts every day, which will be nice. And people had this is a great point. So people think that the podcast is actually a mistake for me because I'm like very visual, like my character is very visual and the glasses and everything. And like if you're only hearing me, it's not quite the same thing. So I agree, and I want to get to the point where like if we do a daily podcast, premium members not only get the live streams, but they get to see the actual podcast, me doing it. And we've set up a studio here in my basement. My pellet stove is not running because I ran out of pellets, and I had the choice to run to Home Depot before filming this, but I didn't, and I'm soaked in sweat from crushing back, and I'm freezing down in my basement without the stove running. But we got the studio set up down here, and so here it is, the business plan. We're looking for premium subscribers to Premium Savagery. We're running a blog. We're having all new merchandise. The newsletter is going to be huge. You got to sign up if you want discounts. Another thing with Premium Thrill Ride, you're not getting 10% off on any merchandise. You're getting 25% off on any merchandise if you are a premium member. So if you want a shirt, if a $25, $30 shirt's going to cost you way less and you end up saving money, it's a good move to get the premium membership. Obviously, I don't have a big enough following, so that's what's going to... The goal is once I develop the following, if I can get to 100,000 YouTube subscribers, which I think I should be able to, then the premium thing becomes the way that Thrill Ride can say, all right, health, IT, sales, career, this blows donkey dick. I'm the Thrill Ride, full tilt, full time, 24/7. I can pay my mortgage. I can support my family. I can support my kids. I'm Thrill Ride full time. I'm Jim Abreu, a comedian, actor, and full-time entertainer. Isn't that the American dream? Doing what you love, full tilt, full time. And anybody can do it, man. You just got to put everything into it and have the support of an awesome wife and awesome family, and I'm fortunate enough to have that. So I'm really excited about what's to come. This ended up being a lot longer and a lot more rambling than I intended, but I thought it was very important for you guys to understand the direction and where we're headed moving forward. So I really appreciate you guys listening to this podcast. I'm hoping to get this up Monday afternoon, but I am a technical idiot, and I need some support and help to get it loaded correctly. If not, you'll probably hear this sometime this week. I really appreciate all the support you guys have given me and encouraged me to get back into it. I always read the comments, man, and I do really appreciate the opportunity to make you guys laugh and inspire you comedically and playing a character, and it does a lot. I think, man, if I didn't work out 7 days a week and I didn't perform, I would probably be in a straitjacket at McLean Hospital. So thank you for giving me the chance to do that. And God bless the United States of America for having like a YouTube and having the ability to make a star of yourself now. Now you don't have to get picked up by the WWE. That's the internet, man. I can just do Thrill Ride forever if it makes sense and people want to see it because of things like YouTube and Vimeo and all different forms of social media. So always got to have an attitude of gratitude, and I have that for everybody who's followed me. The OG guys who, when I was just trying to make a joking video in my car, to stick with me through the thick and thin, through some broken promises because we tried to launch some of this stuff in the past, but I didn't have the support like I do now. I got a good team. We're going to turn Absolute Savage Inc. into a revenue-generating enterprise. It's a privately owned company, but when it goes public, you better reinvest those dividends, Puppet, because we are going from average to absolute savage. Get ready for the kickoff of the podcast February 12th, the kickoff of the web series February 13th. Thrilly Dilly is back, and even though the web series is making fun of me a little bit, this is as real as it gets. I'm coming back to crush it. I will be on the road doing stand-up. I will keep you guys posted on those dates. I'd love to have you there for an event. we'll friggin' drink beers and party afterwards as well. So we're looking into that, starting to do live mics in the coming weeks, open mics rather. Stay tuned. Web series coming out. Dude, I'm jacked up. I hope you guys are too. We got big things coming. Let's go. Full tilt, full time. Go Patriots. See ya, dinks.